Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. Rest assured, you guys, anybody who comes on my content, whether it's this live show here or the twice a week long form podcast that I release, are transportation professionals. All right. There is no theory on any of my stuff. There's no people who couldn't point out what a fifth wheel was or don't know what a Jake brake is or a dolly or anything like that. These are all transportation professionals to provide actual insight for you. At the end of the day, you guys, it's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly the American flag behind me, because not only are we the greatest nation on earth, but I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you guys live your American dream as well. I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm going to bring him up here in a second. Before I do that, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub. You guys, vhubapp.com. Doesn't matter if you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper, we all need access to trailers. And whether you're an owner-op or a small fleet, you should never have to shut your operation down because your trailer's in the shop. And the best part about it, as always, you guys get paid to move these trailers. That's right. That's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading out these trailers. So what they're working on right now, you guys, up in Canada, for all my viewers up there in Canada, I know I got a bunch of you, Milton, Ontario, going to Montreal, Quebec. It's a reefer. You get 250 Canadian to move that. They also have Galt, California, to dry van. Going out to Hutchins, Texas, you get $500 to do that. They also have Winnipeg, Manitoba, going to Vaughan, Ontario, 500 Canadian to do that. And then over in West Valley City, Utah, guys, going up to Calgary, Alberta, you get $1,550 US to do that. And again, that's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading out that trailer. So you guys hit them up, vhubapp.com. My friends Xavier Campos and Stacy Steen, they'll be in the audience. Just do me a favor, you guys, let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Rick Booten, good morning at all. New year, new attitude. Let's get it, Rick. Whitney Young, good fucking morning. Whitney Young's coming over on YouTube, you guys. He's an owner-op out there in Salt Lake City. Hopefully he's digging out of the snow or whatever you guys got going up there. Whitney, whenever you come down to Phoenix, man, hit me up. You need some warmer weather. All right. I'm going to bring my guest on right now, you guys. He's a multi-time appearance on the show, but it's my friend Tyler Burkhofer coming in with Blue Transport Group. What's up, dude?
What's going on, Chris?
Oh man, just ready to break down some articles with you. How's everything going? Like, I mean, you just recently moved. So Tyler got out of Washington. He's down in Florida now. He's got a 48-foot flatbed. He's looking for freight direct. So any of my Pensacola watchers that are out there, you guys, Tyler is looking for some direct customers. So like what spawned the move for you? And what's been going on with that?
Yeah, when my wife and I were kind of looking at the business after we started it about a year ago, and in Washington, I mean, it was difficult. Like the fuel was expensive. I was kind of moving limited amounts of freight in and out of Washington because it seemed like I was my revenue stream was all Midwest and Southeast to get better profit margins. Mm-hmm. So I was going, on the road for a month plus at a time, just bouncing around Midwest and Southeast US. And we were just like, why are we living here? Why don't we, pop smoke and move somewhere else? I can be home a little bit more and is more centralized around where I've been working. So we decided we'd look at the market around the beach. Why not? I'm going to move somewhere. And so we looked at also states that we could domesticate our business to, so we didn't have to shut it down and restart it in a different state. And there's only certain states you can do that. And Florida was one of them. And when you look at the freight market, it really is best to be off of I-10 and not go too far south into Florida. So we picked the Pensacola area.
Yeah, I like it, dude. And I mean, dude, the I-10, if you're right off of that, I mean, you can literally run all the way out coast to coast with that. So that's exactly. One of the best areas to get into. I think it's an exciting move for you, and especially like when we were talking before we got in on air here today, man, about so like, how are you building up your book of business? Because like, this is a question that I think I get more often than not, and you've already been doing that. So like, what are you doing to build up your customer base as a solo owner operator out there in Florida?
Yeah, well, as you know, Chris, I started with no experience in the business. So initially, you know, I've just been working with brokers, really learning the ropes and getting my systems down, as far as, you know, expense tracking and just how I do business, getting all the, you know, becoming, I would say, the most professionalized version of me that I can be, right? And anyway, now I'm really wanting to develop some direct customer relationships, some you know, contract freight, just so I have a little bit better schedule and, you know, a little bit steadier revenue stream, et cetera. So I've just been going door to door. You know, I look up on Google Maps different manufacturers or fabricators, and I'll go to that area. I'll visit that person or that company, and then I'll drive around the area, because usually where there's one, there's several.
Yeah.
And I just you know, introduce myself and tell them who I am and what kind of equipment I have, and that I'd love the opportunity to build their trust and move in their products.
Yeah. So how's the reception been? Because I think, like, when people hear that, they're like, I don't want to go and get a door slammed in my face. And in all of my experience in outside sales like that, I think I only went to, like, nobody ever slammed a door in my face. Actually, most people were like very, very pleasant. And it was more like, I had one person who was like, nah, we're just not interested, man. Can you please leave? And I'm like, well, it happens, you know. But how has the reception been of you actually going up and saying, hey, I'm a real person, I'm a real company, this is me?
It's been really good. You know, I think it depends on how you approach people. I mean, I just take the approach of, like, total no pressure, just hey, this is who I am. If I can ever be a service to you, like, please give me a call. I don't try to take up too much of their time, and just being friendly. I mean, people, I haven't had a single bad experience yet. They've been really receptive to that. And I think it's better than, you know, to put a face with a name and see someone in person and than to just, you know, do an email blast or send stuff in the mail that just kind of gets deleted or thrown away right away. I think there's, you know, people are bound to remember you in the future if you actually, you know, get some FaceTime with them. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And, you know, my friend who's a shipper who was just on the show a couple of weeks ago, I mean, that's what he said. He's like, you know, for all of you guys out there, because we were talking about owner ops and everything and getting that direct partnership, and he had said that on there, and that was his, you know, piece of advice. He's like, just get out there and introduce yourself. It's like, whether you can show up in your truck or your personal vehicle or not, like, you know, again, it's that goes a long way, because I think, like, when it comes down to it, at least in my experience, Tyler, you know, like, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth. So you're kind of walking into, like, a similar group of people that are very similar to you in the sense, you know, the blue collar worker, you know, we all generally get along because we're all kind of generally the same people.
yeah.
And, you know, so again, I think it's just getting up and getting in there and just getting out there and introducing yourself, because you're never going to get anywhere until you start. You know, like at my brokerage, for example, you know, again, you guys, Freight Coach Logistics, we're fully operational. We specialize in open deck and heavy haul transportation. I'm literally telling you guys everything that I'm doing. I'm not holding anything back. Everything that I've been releasing in my content for these past couple of years, I'm applying today in my business. And for me personally, it's all about, how do I separate myself out there? I've chosen for my non-local prospects, video messaging. Even my first outreach to my local prospects is a video message, because again, I want them to see that I'm an actual human being. I'm not just an email. I'm not just another cold call that's out there. And for me, it's like, how do I stand out? I mean, dude, it's like when I went in, like, why I wear a blaze orange shirt and a backwards hat all the time, because again, how do I stand out in a crowd no matter what? No one will notice me if I'm wearing the exact same go to a transportation conference. They're all in the same blue fucking blazers with a light blue shirt on underneath. They all look the same. How do you stand out in a crowd? You got to be bold with this shit, man. If you're going to be out on your own and in business for yourself, it's on you to find that business, man.
Yep, exactly.
All right. All right, let's get in. I'm getting fired up already. Louis, what's up, my brother? Thanks for joining in. He's up in. All right, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I think I'm back here.
Yeah, we're back now. I'm having internet issues in my building again. This happens once in a while. Renee Matthews, good morning. Dylan Turner says, hit up National Air Cargo, National Airlines. They're a DoD contract freight forwarder, and get DoD base affiliation pass.
Write that down here. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, dude, let's jump into the first article here that we're going to talk about here, and it is from ttnews.com. Freight trends continue to affect driver recruitment. The trucking industry likely will see a continued slowdown in driver recruitment efforts as freight demand continues to normalize. I think you are going to see less money spent on recruiting over the next 6 months than the first 6 months of 2022. Cowen and Company analyst John Seidel said, over the last several years, we've seen drastic driver wage increases. I might add, well-deserved. Way to put that caveat in there. The men and women who deliver freight across our great country have been underpaid and underappreciated. And I think some of these that has changed for the better. I think the magnitude of rate increases that we saw lessened, and then in some cases they may stall for a bit. The coronavirus brought yada, yada, yada. There's a sectoral shift happening right now, said Robert Boersma is the VP of Transportation, online job board, talent.com. A natural one is that the explainable from the pandemic, but there's money moving into the sectors. What we expect for 2023 is people are going to want to travel and hospitality out of their system. And, again, so when it comes from like a driver recruitment standpoint, because Tyler, I see this stuff a lot. And it's funny when you like, you're an owner op, so you don't have to deal with this shit. But like, what you see, what's important to the fleet as opposed to the driver. If you look at that top 10 list, and I've broken down, vastly different. Like there's only 2 that are the same of concerns and wants out there. So like, what do you think that has a direct reflection of driver recruitment and retention? Is like, there is just not, it just seemingly there's not a lot of alignment out there.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of different businesses, right? I was in recruiting and hiring before I was a owner operator here, and we had lots of conversations about that as far as like how to attract people and what we need from an organizational standpoint versus what potential applicants are looking at. There's always like give and take, right?
Yeah. And that's where, again, I think that it's concerning that some of like, there's such a disconnect out there, and again, like there was an individual who in another article that I broke down was like, and I've referred to this a few times, but I'm going to bring it up again because I think it's a valid point that the context that he said that like, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years and it's the same problems that we've been having for 30 years. And I'm like, motherfucker, if you're not adapting, you are the problem. Like you're part of the problem. If you want something to change, you got to be the one to change it. And then, to see the job titles that some of these individuals have, it's like, are you just doing this because you don't want to do your job? Like, I think that like what we are up against, hands down, is a massive retention issue. Because like, I still have family members of mine that drive. Like I know the real shit that goes out on the road. Like I got plenty of buddies who are drivers as well. So it's none of this fucking fluff that a lot of people are putting out there. The reality is, it can be shitty at times. It can be real shitty at times. And if we're not going to fix core fundamental issues, like we're going to be talking about this in a couple of years from now. So like from your perspective, Tyler, what would be something? I know you're not going to quit because you're fucking, you're a badass and you're going to make shit work. But like from your perspective, man, what have you witnessed where you could be like, yeah, I could see how that would make somebody not want to do this?
Are we talking like other owner operators?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Man, I would say that just the vast amount of regulation that there is in this industry. I mean, trying to keep everything straight and everything up to date. You have different deadlines for everything under the sun. For different states even have different license. Say like your Kentucky, your KYU number, your New Mexico was it the weight tax or whatever they call it. I mean, there's all these different states that even have separated out. It's not even like your your IRP is like your one-stop shop, right? It's like that is just so time consuming and quite honestly nerve-wracking, because you're like, okay, did I forget anything? Like am I going to go out on the road and have some sort of expired something or other that some state knocks me for? That's really frustrating as an owner operator. Just having, you got to be super organized and be willing to put a lot of time and effort into straight office work outside of driving.
Yeah, and that's what I hear, because again, it's like I hear that a lot. Is it's like, especially from the guys who've been driving for a long time, like my godfather still drives, and he'd been driving back, like when him and my old man drove together back in the 70s and stuff, and he's like, there's times now where it's like there's like 6 or 7 different things you got to log into before you can even pop it in the gear to drive.
Yes.
And it's because it's like that's just one of many things. I think it is overregulated in a lot of aspects, man, because it's like, now again, I understand that there has to be guidelines. There has to be guidelines in place. But to your point, like, why does every state beat to the tune of their own drum in a sense, and it is keeping up with all of that. And again, it's like, for me to sit here and, like, there's no playbook to entrepreneurship. There's no playbook to any of this stuff. And it's like learning the hard way is, sometimes I could see how that would be like a massive upheaval where it's like, why the fuck am I even going to put up with this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be just a little, for someone that's not going into it, understanding that, it can be extremely overwhelming, I can imagine.
Yeah, no, definitely. So this article was, talking about freight trends affecting driver recruitment. It's from ttnews.com. And my whole thing is, man, is at the end of the day, if you're a good driver, if you're a good employee, like, you're never going to go without work. Somebody's always hiring for the right people. So
Agreed.
Again, some of these headlines are valid in points, but also misleading at times as well. Cause it's like, people aren't going to stop recruiting drivers. There's not just going to all of a sudden stop having a need for drivers out there. Dude, this next article, this one was sent over from my man, Riley Dietrich over there. And, it was about the AB5, it was California's ban on big rigs and buses made before 2010 is now in effect. Large trucks and buses made before 2010 will be prohibited from operating on California roadways starting January 1st. It's the final rule in a set of CARB compliance, which California passed nearly 15 years ago. The rules applies to diesel vehicles that weigh at least 14,000 pounds. The Air Resource Board said there are an estimated 200,000 vehicles that have yet to comply with the rule just days before the new year, including roughly 70,000 big rig trucks, or about 10% of commercial vehicle operators in the state, according to truck lobbying groups. And then, the obvious one, why is California doing this? The Air Resource Board had said in 2010, and newer engines do a better job of filtering out harmful particulate matter. When we passed the regulation in 2008, it was to reduce community exposure of toxic air contaminants. It is 100% to protect public health. What are your thoughts, Tyler?
Oh man, I got a lot of thoughts on this one.
Let's hear it.
All right. So, first of all, you talk about, these new trucks and the carbs and the carb emissions or whatever in California and these DEF systems. You can't convince me that putting some of these DEF systems in these brand new trucks is any better for the environment. We're, putting more chemicals into a truck. We're getting, less, worse fuel mileage out of them. We are, it's corrosive to the engine. On and on and on. Like, okay, so we got to rebuild the engine more, buy new trucks more. Like, how is that reducing our carbon footprint? I don't understand that. But hey, that aside, I have a big problem with the government, again, stepping in and telling people that, hey, you've been operating this truck, but now, nope, you're not allowed to be in business, essentially. And you have to shell out however many, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or whatever to get a newer truck. When, maybe somebody had bought said started business 10 years ago, bought a pre-2010 truck, but just rebuilt the engine after 1 million miles or something like. I mean, and now you're telling them they can't use it. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because again, so like out here in Arizona, and I know when I lived up in Nevada, yes, I'm pronouncing that wrong because I know it pisses people off in Nevada when you say it Nevada, but and in California, it used to be you just had to pass like a smog test on your vehicle, So again, and that's what the carb compliance thing was, is are you carb compliant? Did you pass that test that was out there? So again, it's like, I think it's just like such an arbitrary ruling, like, oh, it was good to drive on the 31st of December, but now January 1st, fuck you, you're out of business, you're off the road. Exactly. And again, it's like, what are you trying to prove with that? Like, why are you openly, because again, it's, like, this is the thing, you guys, you can't go into this state with that either. From the research that I found, if you based in Florida there, Tyler, have a pre-2010 truck, you can't operate in the state at all. So it doesn't just affect that. And if they're not willing, like if they're not overly enforcing it right away, they will get to a fucking point. The California Department of Transportation, in my personal experience in dealing with them, ass fucking. Sorry about that. But like what I was saying with the California Department of Transportation is just, for example, permits for them can take like 4 days to get. Most states will get it back to you in 2 hours max, So it's like, I just don't understand how this benefits anybody. Like who benefits from this? Like, honestly, the state of California is losing out on revenue from this as well here. Because now these people aren't going to be in business. Some of them are going to go out of business. They're not going to register their trucks. They're not going to pay, the fuel tax and everything else. Like, what fucking sense does this make? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, I mean, even me, I have a 2018 truck. I could go into California. I'm not going to. I never have. I never will. Yeah. It's just not worth it for me. I mean, to deal with, all this extra regulation and their fuel costs on top of it. No, it's there's plenty of other places in the country to do business. And I think that's going to eventually really drive up rates in and out of California, because there's going to be a lot of people like me that are like, no, not doing it. And I don't know if this is just a little anecdotal information that I picked up picking up a load out of Laredo, Texas, but I couldn't believe the amount of trucks coming and trains coming in and out of our southern border. And I was talking to the mechanic there. I stopped in for a little air leak and at the Mac dealer, and he was like, yeah, man, he goes, with California being so crazy, a lot of goods are now being either manufactured in Mexico or coming through Mexico from ports, through our southern border. So I think we're going to see probably more just, complete bypassing of California as well.
Yeah, dude, I think that's why you haven't seen, even after LA and Long Beach have calmed down in regards to imports, I would bet that's probably why a lot of people are still going to the East Coast ports. So what does that mean? That means really good news for fucking South Carolina, Florida, Houston, all of the, Virginia, Newark, all of those ports are going to be bustling still, because again, they're going to reroute all those ships, because otherwise, if you don't have trucks to move the stuff out of there, you're not going to have any goods. It's going to cause that. And, again, to me, it's just insane. Like, honestly, it's insane that they're openly trying and advocating for people to go out of business. I personally cannot fathom how that has even passed, because like, what's been wrong? My whole thing is again, carb, whatever. I get it. Check your engines. You don't want harmful chemicals coming out. Cool. I can understand that. But why are you foregoing that now? Why are you foregoing what has worked in that time frame? For what? I truly just don't understand it.
I think they may be looking at this from a wrong point of view. If you want drivers and truck companies to purchase newer trucks, let's focus on making them more profitable so they can afford these trucks. I mean, you start talking about $180,000, $200,000 for a new truck. Something's got to change there as far as bringing truck prices down, or raising driver wages or, something so that we can afford to buy new trucks more often. I mean, if they really want to phase out these older vehicles, I mean, that I think is the way to look at it. Like, how do we make it so trucking companies can afford, smaller operators can afford to buy a new truck every 5 years or 3 years, whatever they want it to be. But that's not how they're looking at it. I think this is a classic example of someone that has no business experience making policy.
I would agree with that. It's amazing how that works when you've never ran a business, yet you're telling people what they can and can't do in their business. Again, you guys, it's no surprise. I'm just not a fan of government overstep. I think this is a massive overstep in this, and it just throwing right fucking in with AB5 on top of that. Essentially, the state of California hates owner operators. They hate small business, and their policies back that up. You cannot argue that they are in support of small business at all. That article, you guys, is from KCRA.com, and it was California's ban on big rigs out there. Check it out, you guys, because again, I think that it's going to affect a lot more people than you think. It's going to affect brokers as well. But shout out to all the drivers out there who are compliant with all that in California. You're pretty much going to be able to name your fucking price because you're going to be about the only truck in the state that's going to be able to haul that. So yeah, man, dude. So 2023. With all the shit that's going on, I know we just got a couple minutes left here, but like, what plan do you have in place out here? Because how are you? What's your game plan with the market being what it is on everything? How are you attacking this?
With the market being what it is right now, I expect it to improve. Rates to improve slightly over the next few months. I mean, obviously, you've been talking about it on some of your podcasts. But so I'm really just kind of like I said before, been really focusing on kind of my back office and my procedures and how I run my business, and really being smart about how I'm marketing myself, how I'm tracking my expenses and my revenue. So that's been my key right now, is just kind of staying afloat, paying myself, staying afloat, making sure those things are rock solid, because about a year from now, that's when I would really like to start expanding my fleet. So one of the things I just started a few days ago was just hammering out an employee handbook. Just some simple procedures of like, hey, this is what you do when you pre-trip a truck, and this is what you do when you get to a shipper's location. Like, just some key points that I can give to a potential employee, driver, or owner operator that I would bring on later. So those are the things that I'm really I'm trying to set myself up for the future for expansion. And I believe that getting some of those direct shipper contracts are going to be important to that too. So marketing myself and trying to find some really rock solid customers over the next few months is going to be important.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I think that's very sound advice for any owner op or small fleet out there. Is, again, it's the less and less reliance. Like, I'm not shitting. Obviously, I am a broker. I'm not shitting on brokers. I'm not doing any of that. But for you to be able to find those direct partnerships yourself, it's going to be very sustainable for you long term.
Well, and those, and nothing against brokers, because brokers are great. I want to, build a broker relationship, and maybe that's with you. I know you're focused more there in the Southwest, but someone that I can be my go-to contact for getting return shipments, after I get my contract shipment somewhere. So using a broker to get home is going to be important for probably a lot of trips. So.
No, definitely, man. Well, Tyler, how does anybody reach out to you? If there's any shippers who are in Pensacola that are listening to this that want your 48-foot flatbed.
Various ways. I'm on LinkedIn, Tyler Burkhofer, or Blue Transport Group, both on there, and I check those. We have a website, bluetransportgroup.com, and also phone is listed on that website or on the LinkedIn, and maybe I can type that into the comments here.
Yeah,
I guess I can't.
No, well, just
anyway. But yeah, bluetransportgroup.com. All the contact info is over there. So
perfect. Well, hey, that's it for today, you guys. Reach out to Tyler if you have freight for him. Don't give him some BS rates, you guys. Give him some real freight. Well, hey, that's it for today, you guys. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow. The links to all these articles, you guys, are put over on YouTube, as well as the Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay of the podcast on iTunes and Spotify, which will be uploaded here almost immediately. And if you guys do go over to those other platforms, if you could do me a solid, subscribe and share the show, rank the show on those platforms, you guys, because at the end of it all, that's how we continue to reach people. And it's because in each and every one of you who are doing that, because if you guys see value in this, your network's going to see value in this as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.